Okay, guys, let's go. 2 minutes wait, enough. So, ladies and gentlemen, friends, family members of the Leica family, good evening. Good to see you. Welcome back. I hope you are as happy as me that we are now doing this a little bit more regularly. So after a little break, we are back on track and yeah, keep updated. We will have some other sessions also in July. So as I said, on a regular one, we don't really know like will it be every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks, but we can already confirm in July there will be another 2 Leica conversations. And yeah, I'm happy to welcome you all to today's Leica conversation, which is quite an interesting one because first of all, it's very interesting for me because I'm a total newcomer when it comes to film, and I have to admit I have never taken an analog picture in my life so far. So this will be probably the one who is the one with the least knowledge here. But I try my best to target our speaker today with very hard questions. But of course, also I need your help. So whatever question you have during the session, feel free to write into the chat box. And after the session, of course, we will have some time to chat a little bit. So you can unmute yourself if your question is a little bit more comprehensive. And yeah, so it's easier for you to voice out. And also after the session, check out your mailbox. So you will receive another email where we try to get to some information from you. So did you like the session? And for example, would you like to do a physical one after this? But these are things we are going to check on later. And now let's welcome our guest speaker today. I think majority of you, as you are from Singapore, you already know him because in Singapore everybody knows him. Is
No.
Ritz Eng, photographer, Leica instructor, and yeah, walking Wikipedia of photography. And as I said, today's session will be about digitalizing film. So you might think this is a niche topic, but what we discover in the stores daily is that yes, it is still niche, but the demand for analog photography is still there. So there's regular people coming to the store asking, "Do you still carry a film camera?" and all of that. So and it's also the young generation. It's very interesting that not everything today is about smartphone photography. So some people actually they go back to the roots of photography, and to show you guys today how to do that, and also how to, when you shoot analog, how to digitalize your analog pictures, because this is where we can make all the most of advantages, like sharing the analog pictures on social media or with your friends or whatever, or still just store them so that you know, they don't get damaged or anything. Yeah, and Casey, over to you. I think you will share everything with us today that belongs to digitalizing your analog pictures. Welcome.
Okay, hi. So technically, I'm showing you. Let's see. Okay, so this is what you need. Some of the things you need when you want to do film photography and digitizing it with a DSLR. So yeah, Lucas. So most of the time, your M cameras. I developed my own black and white, but for colors and slides, I do send out for people to develop because they need a very strong temperature control, and slides, of course, positive slides require other chemicals. I have used several types of scanning methods, from scanners, flatbed scanners, to film scanners. Then 1 to 2 years ago, I started to use test out experiment on using DSLR or mirrorless cameras to actually copy my film. I found this one of the easiest, less problematic, and very true to life so-called film experience. And whatever I get from film, I can duplicate and copy very fast. So these are some of the equipments that I use when I'm doing film. I've tried on M lens. I've tried my M lens. I've tried on automatic lenses. I've tried with macro lenses with extensions actually. Yeah, so different lenses, what kind of images it actually create and where the flaws and cons about it. Eventually, I use the SL2 or SL2S, depending on what I'm copying.
Before we go
yeah.
into the equipment, am I right? You are not only digitalizing your film rolls, you still shoot analog. So
yes, I do shoot analog.
Why do you still shoot analog if you already have advanced digital cameras on hand?
I like the analog film grain, the color it reproduce. Later we'll see some of them. And of course, I don't know, I always go back to analog. I found it more challenging and it's more organic in a lot of the ways. Yeah, so that's my feel.
That the analog style you cannot achieve through a digital, even if you try to post-process it in that way in Lightroom or whatever, the original analog look you cannot get elsewhere.
No, you cannot. It is because this is random. The grains are random. And it actually helps you do better photography. You sort of enjoy the process more. You don't know what you're going to get until you develop the film itself. That's what I feel. Yes.
Okay, great. So let's go with your list. I mean, it looks very comprehensive, and let's say, okay, we keep the cameras aside, but if you exclude the cameras, what would you say? How much is all the equipment, and do you really need everything from the beginning, or can you constantly build up the gear?
You can constantly build up the gear. Now, I would say one of the important thing is actually the light for copying is very, very important. The more powerful the light, the more even the light, the better you are in copying the film. And it enables a lot more so-called possibilities. Other than that, it's actually patience. And of course, you need a bunch of friends, life-changing friends, to actually support you along the way, who actually poison you with different things along the way and then start working with it. So this is one of the, I think, more important thing. So let's go and see. So this is my current setup. Okay, so you actually on a copy stand, and then there is a light, 95 CRI light with a so-called film transport. And of course, I'm copying some so-called positive film here. So it's actually over here, if you want to take a look. So let me power on the LED. So now I'm going to move my camera. So this is a setup, okay? So the SL2 and the macro lens. Now the macro lens is important. You have to have a 1:1 macro lens. And of course, you see here, this is actually an anti-static brush to brush away the dust, and then it goes into the transport and then out here. So this is roughly the setup that you will need for a good scan. And of course, the next thing you will need is this actually. So this is the negative that's being copied. And you can actually do the conversion without any plugin, just in Lightroom itself. You just know that black is white, white is black, so you can convert directly. But for a more easy way, because really, you take less time if you just get a plugin, and then the plugin consists of Frontier and Norisu's algorithm inside, which are the algorithm for the big machines in the old-time processing lab. So all you need to do is just activate the plugin and it works. It will convert itself. So this is one of the way, an easier way to work with it. So the next thing, let's see.
Can you go one slide back to the setup? I just have saw something that I would like to ask you. First of all, how important is the resolution of the camera? So let's say, for example, you would use the SL2S and you would use a TL lens. Would it be sufficient, let's say the 60 macro, in terms of resolution, or let's say overall, how important is resolution? Does it have to be a high amount of resolution, or is 24 or even 10 megapixels sufficient?
Okay, I'll prefer to copy as high resolution as possible. Okay, that was the case, that has always been the case for the past many years. That means when we capture something, we want to capture one time as high resolution as possible, so that we don't need to recapture again. In the last in the years when I use flatbed scanners, the maximum resolution from a flatbed scanner that can optimize nicely is about what, 6004 dpi, and normally I use double scan, which means that I'm copying 6004 dpi. But with this, I'm capturing the full frame of SL2 now, okay, which is higher. Now, 1 month ago, Lightroom released something called enhanced resolution. It can take your camera resolution and double it. And this is because of the new AI technology. You virtually feel that the new enhanced resolution is as good as the original. So in this case, you can capture a bit smaller. In the future, you know that it actually have that high resolution because of AI, and you can still print something like 1 meter, 24 by 36 inch. So, but to me, I will still, depending on what I'm copying, if I am copying something with high dynamic range, I will use SL2S. If I'm copying something like slides and everything, which I know that roughly is what I shot already, I will use SL2 to give me the high resolution.
There's a good question here from Raymond. He's asking, could you use the multi-shot mode in SL2S or SL2 so that you get a file size of 157?
You can get the multi-shot mode actually. You can actually, and you have to be very stable. Make sure that a good copy stand is needed. Make sure it's really stable. You can do every one of them 187 megabyte. Just be aware of the storage that you need to be careful of, because it can be bigger. Okay. So yes, and in fact, it's quite interesting. Yes.
And then what I just saw, there's something attached on the hot shoe. It looks like a prism or something. What is that?
Oh, this is actually a so-called leveler. Last time we always use this to level our camera. So if you're using M, and we use this to level the camera. So I use it to level, to make sure that it's hitting perpendicularly to the so-called film plane. Anybody want to know what is the f-stop and everything that I'm shooting with this?
I think we will see some examples, right?
Yeah, you will see some examples later. You ask. Okay, so this is the setup itself.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much. Go on. Didn't want to.
Oh yes, correct. So I'm going to show you some black and white negative. So this is the result of the scans and the conversion. Okay. This shot,
for example, I guess the high contrast was made by you, and this is not coming from the scan itself.
No, actually, you see, you actually can determine what kind of photographs that you want to do, the way you are shooting it. So by shooting at what box speed, or what speed, what ISO speed, by developing for how long and using what time to develop, you can actually shot as what you want without any editing. So this is a direct conversion. I'm shooting this at half the box speed. I'm asking the lab to process at the same time, the box speed itself. So it is processing at the box speed, but I'm shooting at half of it. And what it come out is like that. Yeah. So this is all done in the shooting. And of course, the processing will be determined by how you want to process, how much rotation, what is the chemical use. When you use coffee, it will give you another color.
There's a good question from Gomi. He's asking, do you have to do that in the dark?
I try to do that in the dark, yes. Because if you don't do that in the I don't want other stray lights to actually affect. This particular system is better because the film is actually inside, so less so-called stray lights. I do in the dark mostly, yeah, to ensure that that's the only color source that I'm looking at. Yes.
And the lens that you have used in your setup, there's a guess. Is it either the Leica R60 or the R100 macro?
I tried the 100 macro. My eyesight is not very good. I can't. I tried the M. I tried on the M lens also. The chances of hit and miss on that film is too much for me. So I use an autofocus lens.
So you mean that is more precise even on that short distance? That
you see, there's a lot of vibration involved when you insert the film, everything, and if you you have to check whether it is actually focused or not. And I'm very particular about that. So every time I go to the next slide, if I accidentally adjust my equipment, it might so-called not be precise focus. Mm-hmm. So that's why I use the manual lens. I can get it, but it takes a longer time. That is why I try not to use manual lens at all in this case. Because every time I want to readjust that focus.
So with every new picture, you focus again?
I will try to check again.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. So with the R60 and R100 macro, you need the 1:1 adapter. I think for R60 also. So that is my sort of my talk on this. And that's why right now I'm using an autofocus lens that automatically makes sure that it's focused on the film plane. And I'm using intelligent autofocus in the SL2 system. So it actually pick up the whole film as wherever it focuses, it will be sharp. And it's much faster, yes.
Okay, go on.
So this one is done.
Split the questions a little bit so that.
Okay, so this one is done in this MBS when phase 2 was just open. Yeah, that's my friend down there trying to take a view of the MBS in the early morning. This is shot in Kallang. So with this particular system, I actually use a sort of a special grip that enabled me to scan the top and bottom of the frame. In this case, because I always forgot what the film is shot on, which kind of what kind of negative. So with this, at least I can remember that okay, this is shot on a HP5. Okay.
Do you leave it like this with the film ingredients and all of that on the frame, or do you crop when you get the final one later on?
I can do like that, or I can crop. It doesn't matter. So this is just for me to record. Okay, this is that film. It's for my own recording purposes.
It looks really nice. Looks really authentic. You know, I mean, if you would.
Yeah.
There was one question from Raymond earlier.
Yes.
I don't know if he's still in the session. It seems like he dropped out, but he was asking, do you directly tether while you are shooting?
Okay. I don't tether with Lightroom. I tether with Leica image shutter. I found that that's the best because I can actually preview the image on my computer and check the focus also, double check the focus as I'm shooting. So it's actually direct to Leica image shutter, and then it works. And when I import in Lightroom, it's just a synchronization of the folder. That's all. It's pretty simple, and it's very fast.
But what would be the difference if you tether directly into Lightroom?
If I tether into Lightroom, I mean everything is so heavy in Lightroom, so I don't use it at all. So I rather don't. I want to ensure that the transfer and I can see the image very quickly. Yes. Photo.
Process on those. Do you regularly leave them as they are, or do you always post-process them?
That's the marvelous about negative light pro. Actually, you don't need to do much post-process. All you need to do is just convert. Because for black and white, roughly what I shoot is going to be like that already. Because I actually so-called process at box speed, but shoot at half. So it's very contrasty. I like the contrasty black and white, so I always do that. I like colors to be punchy. That's why I always, but for slides, positive slide, you have to shoot at box speed. So that's different. So negative, I always make it punchier as I'm shooting. I don't need to worry about any other thing later, because the colors will be muted, a bit muted if I'm not if I'm doing box speed. Yeah. Yeah, this guy was taking a smoke break.
If you already shoot in that high contrast, let's say you overexpose or underexpose, how is the behavior of the dynamic range when you convert it? Can you still pull out the blacks and all of that, or is that in film not so easily possible?
Yes, you can for film, actually, quite easy. You got 3 to 6 stops of playing, so I think it's quite easy for you to play. But what you do is actually your actual image is already quite punchy in this case, not much editing needed. So you have to think about what kind of photographs you want to present and how you want to, what kind of color, contrast level and colors that you want to present, and then you shoot at the speed that you want. Okay, give it a try. I mean, you just get a load of film and then shoot at half speed, and then don't tell the shop owner that you're actually shooting at half speed. So the colors will start popping out in there. Are you on? Yeah, I got this thing warning from here.
So what do you get the
Oh, they tell me I never check out
on your app, the warning on your app?
Yeah. They told me I never check out, and then after that, 12 days later, 12 days later, then they send me a warning.
Photography must be a dangerous hobby.
It's okay. I mean, you have to enjoy.
There's another question. Unfortunately, I don't have the name here. It only tells me iPhone. So iPhone is asking, which lens would you recommend to do that? So, for example, would it be the Sigma 105L or the, as I said, the TL60, for example?
You see, if you use the TL60, you are not using the full sensor. Okay, unless you're using CL. I did my first copying using the CL with a 50 mm and 2-inch extension. Doesn't work that well, but the image looked fantastic. The thing about TL macro is it is the APS-C. So with the CL, it should be quite good. If you're using SL, I would recommend you use a full frame. It's different. You will see the whole range. Now, the problem using M lenses is that the side of the image is actually a bit soft. Whereas if you use CL or TL lenses, TL lenses or SL lenses, the whole image is very even and very sharp. So that is one of the plus points. Yeah. It is different from doing macro. You are now doing reproduction work. So it's totally different. Your image already been created already. So you need to actually so-called reproduce it in digital as what you have done in analog.
Does it necessarily have to be a macro lens, or can it also be a lens that just has a good close focus?
No, it has to be a 1:1 macro lens. The reason why is because the distance between your target and your lens has to be a certain length, and it must fill the whole sensor, the whole 35 mm frame. Okay, if the distance is if the distance is too high and you have to place your camera very high, what you encounter is that the stability is not there. So there must be a relation between the distance to the target, and then you must able to so-called fit your so-called film nicely, so you don't vibrate that much. So that's my take. Yeah, I've done it on so many things. Yeah.
Before we go into the color
Negative.
Yeah. What's your favorite black and white film? Just to share with the audience.
Okay, if I'm developing myself, I prefer Kodak 400, and I prefer, recently I see the Cinestill black and white is very, very nice. And it depends on what I'm shooting, but street 400 Kodak, HP5, the quality is good, but you have to know how to develop HP5 because it's a very, it gives a rough grain if you don't develop it nicely. But Kodak is more forgiving, but I don't like because it's too thin. Sometimes my hands are too flimsy on this. But Cinestill is not bad. Recently I saw it. The quality is very, very good. Yeah, so that's my black and white. But normally, if for portraits, I go for Rollei 80. Yeah, a very unique film. Yes. Any question? So this is actually the color negative. I did this when I was in 1 year plus ago in Penang. Me and a bunch of guys went to Penang before the COVID came. I mean, we were quite daring then. So we spent a few days in Penang actually to capture Thaipusam. And one of the shop owners passed me superior premium Fujifilm. So I sort of tested in Penang and then found the colors very wonderful because I'm looking for a film that is saturation is very high and then something like 100 VS. So this is one of the film I felt it is nice now, the best I can get now for a negative film.
Is there a difference in the method that you are applying, or is it just black and white and color, but the way that you digitalize is basically the same?
The way to digitalize is the same. The conversion in which I talked about just now, instead of I'm using a plugin, and the plugin actually I'm using the Frontier algorithm. The Frontier algorithm to convert this Fuji so-called thing. Yes. So that it gives that rich color. So I purposely match it to Frontier because Frontier is their so-called lab machine, actually. It is important to find a good developer because if the developer is not good, sometimes you'll find scratches, hair, old chemical, color differences. So developers are very, very important. How good the color is, you have to really look at the chemicals they use. You have to look at how long they change their chemicals.
For example, on those that we have already seen, the colors are like very saturated. Is that something you have set in your plugin settings, or does it come out like
no,
this?
it does come out like that when you just so-called shoot it correctly. It is just like that. Okay, so it's the method of shooting, and you look at the person who developed it. You look at their process and tell them to develop in a certain manner, and it will actually, and you have to check because one of the films that I got back has a lot of scratches, and I literally have to correct them in digital.
Mm-hmm.
No choice, because sometimes they sort of did not take care of that, and then you have to be careful.
There's if we are already on that topic, a question from Rob. If you can recommend a good developer in Singapore.
Okay. Go to Wongpo if you want, not bad. I send it overseas, and I found that because the film community in Singapore is not that big, so the chemical use in most of the developers, they can't change the chemical all the time. So I did a few tests before to send overseas, and it actually works better. So later you will see, because I have a bunch of expired slides, which is 3-4 years, and when I send local for developing, is just not, the colors is just not out. But when I send it overseas, the colors is so vibrant, and it was a 4-year-old slide, 4-year expired slides. Yeah.
So overseas means?
Overseas means sent to Hong Kong, US, they develop, they got bigger market there. Okay. Yeah. So that's my take. So this is Thai Busan. So we went there with a bunch of guys, Penang, fantastic food, and then enjoy shooting the streets of that. Yeah.
There's another question regarding your equipment from Nick. If you would recommend an enlarger lens adapted to the SL.
It's still, you have go into manual. That's the problem. If the problem is, first thing is if you want fast shooting, fast copying, it's better to just let it auto. And the SL system actually designed to hit the sensor at pure 90 degree, very straight 90 degree. There's no much flaw, and just go ahead with that. You can use enlarger ends, you can use macro lenses. There's no doubt about it. It's only how fast you want to shoot. And I can tell you, I can copy 250 films within a span of 2-3 hours without any check, with just autofocus, and just, it's like a production house. If I'm doing scanning and I'm doing double scan, I'm using about 1 hour to do 24 frames, 1 to 2 hours to do 24 frames. But with this, I'm doing 250, 2-3 hours. It's much better. That's my experience.
But if you don't have that huge amount for people who are already having M lenses or R lenses, if the number is small, you can also do it like this. If you have time and can.
Yeah, if you have time, but and the quality, this is much better.
Yeah, because you're a very, very busy man. You know?
No, if you're doing scanner, you have to clean the scanner. You are a slave to the scanner. Today, the scanner have to be clean before I do anything. Then you are like 30 minutes cleaning the scanner, warming up to this. So this is like fast produce, different. Speed more important. Yes. And it's easy to maintain. You're using the camera that you are shooting. That's it. You just attach. If you use enlarger lens, the major thing is, any manual lens is the checking of the focus. That is the major thing. If it is easy to check, I'm okay. But sometimes because of vibration or certain things, the focus shifted, then you have to redo the whole batch again, and that's not very good actually. This is MBS. And this is another one that done in MBS.
I like those. They look very vintage, you know, as they have been from some decades ago.
Yeah.
60s or something.
Yeah, this is a roof.
There's very, very active, our audience today.
Okay.
There's 2 more questions from Roger. The first one is, would you recommend to start with film as a beginner instead of digital? And in terms of digitalizing your film, do it yourself, do you give workshops for this? So like the physical one in your lab that you have there?
Well, I can. Leica can. Okay, second thing is okay, my story is this. I was shooting digital. I'm when I was younger, I'm the first one of the first few who start from digital. And my mentor actually asked me to shoot film continue with film for another 2 years. So I went back. The thing about this is when you're shooting film, and I did experience this with some of my students. When they go back to film, I check their film and check their digital files. They are more careful when they're shooting film. The thought process is much slower, but almost everything that they shot is good actually. They actually think through slower and then take the time to shoot. No spraying. No, sorry, you can do that, but that's not the way to shoot. You try to make that. You try to enjoy the shooting. So, for me, is yes, I think once in a while, or everybody should try the shooting analog film to really enjoy the process of shooting. I mean, unless you are in a hurry of Instagramming something, I'm not shooting for other people, I'm shooting for myself. So I take my time to process. Okay, don't do this when you're shooting your partners or wife, and they will sure complain, where are my files now? So no, you should actually take your time to shoot and then make sure it's good. So that is my take, and then you should try to enjoy the shooting. So I do that analog shooting, and I found that it is very entertaining. So it is something that I appreciate. Whatever you see here that I have shot is exactly as being shot. There's no cropping. I can't crop. I'm just copying the film. That's it. Of course, after that, if I want to print, I can do some adjustment and crop. But this is exactly as being shot every time.
How's that? Have you done that? Printing the analog, the analog.
I did some. I did some, but in the end, I prefer hand printing. That means I actually go to the darkroom and do the printing. I think that's more interesting. The thing is longer process. You can also send it to a digital file to print, actually. Digital printer to print. It works. Yeah. So we're going to positive slides. This is a more okay. These are positive slides. So these are a bunch of slides that Magnum passed me. So it's actually when they pass me, there are hundreds of them. So when I just give them around because there are too many for me to consume. But these are by the time they reach me, they are like just expired. But now it's about 3-4 years expired. I always wanted to finish this lot of slides, but in the end, I never found a good developer. It went very bad. So in the end, I sent over to Hong Kong. They managed to process it for me. I take a chance when I do this thing. When I shot this with positive slides, this is actually Geylang Lorong 3. The day they are moving out of the area, in the December period. So they are having a ceremony, and then they are actually moving up the deities and everything. Yeah, correct. No. Okay, sorry. I was just looking at Julian's question. Later, I'll answer them. So this is the process itself. So I was shooting this. Now most of the camera I use here is M6 titanium with Summicron 35mm version 4. I love that lens. Use it. I have use a few of them during my time, and then I love that lens. It is not. It's called a bokeh king, if everyone know. So this is from that lens itself. Small and nifty. Yeah.
Before you go on,
yeah,
we need to clarify some questions. Otherwise, there are so many questions coming in. The riot.
Okay.
The last question was from Ken Chia. What copy stand do you use?
Okay, I use a Japanese copy stand called LPL. You can buy different copy stands. Okay, the copy stand that you use must also match the size of the film that you are scanning and must also match your macro lens because the height is a matter. Some copy stands are higher, so they are more expensive so that you can actually copy a bigger area. It's the same as a larger theory. We are now doing the reverse of enlarging. So so the copy stance is important in that manner. I last time have a Kaiser, now I'm using an LPL. Not bad, LPL copy stands are quite okay. But because my copy stand is not very tall, is very suited for 35mm. So the choice of lens becomes a matter right now. If you are shooting a larger film, even a 4x5 film, you have to adjust the height and sometimes it will hit the maximum. So it depends on what kind of lenses you use, how high the copy stand you need to be. Yeah. Next.
Then the next one from Tommy. You mentioned in the beginning, like you would at least do a full frame. How about medium format? And
Same thing.
How do you modify your setup for that?
The medium format, if you're going to modify the medium format, you have to have a higher copy stand so that it actually hit the whole area. Or your now it's very particular about medium format is the light for the medium format film has to be very even. Now it's a relation. If you are shooting, you are shooting mostly at f13. In my case, f13. Okay, you can shoot at lower f-stop, but the effect is different. So to shoot at f13, there's only two choices. Either the light is brighter, so you have a shorter time and doesn't cause much vibration, or you have a stable copy stand that you can put down there and then spend 1 second plus for every picture. So my light is a 95 CRI. It actually for f13 at ISO 100, I'm actually shooting around what? Less 1/15 of a second. And that's how powerful that light can be. And that's important because with a more powerful light, a more even light, the film looks like the copy is nicer. Yeah. So for medium format, first thing is make sure the light is even. Second thing is you have to have a higher copy stand to cover the whole area, the whole image. Whether you use a 35mm or medium format copying, if you want to be, it just give you more or less the same effect because you are the image already created on the film. You are just doing the copying. Yes. I hope you understand what I mean.
Okay, then go on with your next one.
Yeah, next one, laurel tree. Yeah, correct. So this is taken indoor. Yeah, that day, yeah, some friends are actually there. So for slides, what is important is finding your black. First thing you have to know that slides come in different temperature. So that's one thing. You have to find what is your slides temperature first. Second thing is there's a lot of black adjustment in slides. You don't need to convert, but there's a lot of black adjustment. Make sure that the frame itself is black, because sometimes when you scan, you overexpose it. So that or you sort of shifted the temperature or something like that. So these are the minor things in slide that you want to think about and work with. And especially expired slides, you literally have to imagine how you're going to work and look as it goes along.
So Casey, sorry, I just checked because there's two similar questions.
Okay.
First one from Willie and then from Gek. Which film camera would you recommend? I mean, I know that you have a favorite because All of them are made with the same camera, but yeah, can you recommend?
Okay. Just go and get. Okay, I spend a lot on film cameras, but okay, you have to find one that's comfortable for you to focus with. One of the things I like about M is easy to focus. It's a good street camera, and all you need to do is match that two patch together, and then you are focused. For once, I did use Leica R before. If I don't change the screen inside the Leica R system or any film SLR system, technically it's a bit difficult for me to get that focus. So that is my take with SLR film. But most of the time, for the longest time, I was always using an M6. I was always using, in fact, up to now, I'm still using an M6. I'm using an M6 TTL now. So I've been so used to the camera and it's so easy to operate. There are a few differences in between all the M's, but the TTL is because the buttons are bigger and it's easy to work with. Then that's why I'm using a TTL now. So, and the thing about film cameras is, especially Leica film cameras, technically it can preserve its price actually. It actually and Leica is still servicing it. Believe it or not, you buy any Leica M film, you can just bring it to Raffles and then they can actually service the camera. And that is important when you're shooting film. You need someone that can work with it. You go to other camera systems, they can't. No one is out. You have to send it to this, send it to there, and then you have to find your own servicing team. And sometimes you don't know what they are doing with it. So I rather, if you're going to think about, because it's very long lasting, you technically can use for what, 5-10 years, and then just every once in a while overhaul the whole thing, and then it works. So
do you see a difference between the M analog cameras? Let's say, for example, comparing your M6 to the MA or the current MP.
If you service it nicely, no, I don't feel any difference.
So that means in the way they work and the results, you would say they can perform on the same level.
It can perform on this because everything is the same. It can perform on the same level. Yes. So you just if you have to go through that one time overhaul the whole thing. That's it. But send it to Germany, do everything there, finish it up, do a CLA. That's it. Unless there's something that can't be fixed. But I believe in the film, Leica can fix almost everything from that. Yeah.
So this would be your preference over, for example, the R analog cameras or the Leica Flex.
Okay. For the R, I used the 6.2 before. Those are very good cameras. The problem now is I don't think Leica fix R anymore. I used the R8, R9 before. It is a beast. It doesn't break down. As I said, the only thing that that I encounter is sometimes I miss the focus because I'm looking through that viewfinder. I need to change the matte screen so that it's easier for me to focus. Yes. Yeah, it's a personal preference. You can use an SLR. The good thing about using R is you have a whole lot of lenses from macro to tele to 400, whatever lens you want to get. M is only fixed to that, and then unless you're using a extension, using a VisoFlex, you got 300-400 mm coming in. Yeah.
Okay, great. Go on.
Go on.
I cannot read all the questions at a time because there are more questions coming.
Yeah, I know. So this lady was moving that day. Yeah, she almost been photographed by a lot of people because she stayed around there for many years, and then that day she moved, and all the sons and grandsons come over and help her to move to a new place. Yeah. Yeah, this is one of the last slide. I love the colors. It's in the bright daylight. Yeah, it's just fantastic with the slides. So actually, with the avenue of a good lab, you can actually start shooting slides quite nicely. So that's what I enjoy.
How is it to shoot in low light? Is that something manageable, or would you never?
Film? Well, okay. That's where all your 1.4, 1.2 comes in. Okay, you have to understand that it gets grainy. What, at 400? Over 400, it gets a bit grainy right now. But it gets it has this organic feel to it. I did like one of the film called 3200p from Kodak. I always sometimes I shoot it at night, and then with that film you literally can shoot at night, no problem. But it is good. That's why when you plan your lenses, you have to be planning it very carefully. Some you want for night users, some you actually want it for daytime users. So you sort of so-called build your lenses in that manner. I have 1.4s and I have f2s, so depending on what situation. But most of the time, I don't find a problem shooting f2 at night. You have to know your light. That is one thing. That's part of the learning, in fact. I think shooting film, you get that grasp of what is the ISO you can use and how much you can push or pull. And then from there, you actually are more confident in your digital shooting too.
Then a question attached to that, I think we already talked a little bit about it, but how is it to adjust the digitalized film compared to a real digital? So when you adjust them in Lightroom, can you do the same things like adjusting the colors, increasing contrast, or even bringing up the darks and all of that, or are you more limited?
It is actually okay. When you are working with positive slides, it's the same. But when you are working with the negatives and black and white, you are actually doing the reverse way. What is bright is become dark, negative. When you push the exposure, you're actually making it darker because you are shooting negative. You have to convert them. So that's why during the beginning of the session, we talk about this Negative Lab Pro. It helps you to visual it in a more easy way. They create a special slider for you to adjust your exposure, your certain things, and then if you want to tweak certain light or certain color grading, you can actually attach to that. Yeah, so this is why I would suggest that people get that plugin and then work with that. It's easier. If not, you can still adjust, but you have to reverse their thinking in that when you are adjusting to the brighter side, you're actually darkening it. Yeah. Because you're working with negative. For positive slides, it's the same. Okay, because what you shoot is what it is. You have to be aware of what is the black, how much black you are working with. You have, because black is actually the limitation of your so-called histogram graph. Where is your limitation and how you're going to cut it off? Yeah. So that is my take on this.
And finish your pictures first, and then we will clarify the last questions.
Oh, I don't have much already. This is my last slide. Any question? Oh, we have no questions.
He looks a little bit scary, I have to say. He looks like he's staring at me somehow.
Who? Ronald. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. There was a question from Victor. He's asking which SL macro lens did you use? So yeah, there's at the moment no macro lenses for SL. So would you like to have a macro lens SL?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would love it if I'm waiting. Can Leica to come up with a full frame macro lens.
If you can make a wish, which macro lens would you like to have?
Oh, make the 100 Apo R or just macro. That would be nice.
Okay.
You have the 100 macro. Yeah, tell Peter about it. Tonight, email him. We need that now.
Yeah, but I think that hasn't been so clear. Which lens are you actually using there?
I'm using a 105 from Sigma actually right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, then there's a question. When you digitalize film, would you use exposure bracketing to take multiple shots and merge them?
No. No. There's no need to do that, I feel, because first thing is whatever done is done already in the film. What you need to do is actually expose the film correctly. And in this case, I've tried several techniques. Forget about the multi-exposure, which goes kaput all the time. Center weighted is one of the best because it takes the center part. And of course, it also depends on where you place that film. If you place at the side, the center weighted doesn't work that well. So you have to place the film center of the camera and then expose the center side and shoot a bit underexposed so that you actually can push it up when you are doing some adjustment. If you shoot direct and if it is overexposed, again, it depends on how you shoot your film. Sometimes if you overexpose the film, that's it, it's gone. So first thing, the shooting in the film camera has to be very precise, very nice. And then the conversion be done more nicely. It's easier. So it is a whole chain of process.
Okay. Then what color temperature is the light source?
This is pure white light 55. But when that's why when you are shooting, changing to this positives, you have to change a bit. Thinking of changing to daylight digitally, and then
not an issue at all. Not an issue.
Not an issue. Yeah, it has to be. It's not the light source has to be constant, but the power of the light source has to be powerful. Because once you have a less powerful light, the CRI is not high. What you are getting is actually you don't have that. When you are shooting at f13, your exposed time becomes 2-3 seconds, and everything goes haywire. So you have to so-called lower the exposed time as much as possible. So it's fast, first thing, and second thing, it doesn't so-called have any electronic noise. You want to eliminate almost everything because you'll be shooting at only ISO 100, not base ISO, not poor. Yeah.
Then the next question from two people actually, Maurizio and Jerong. They would be interested to hear the comparison or your opinion about M6, M7, and M2, because they said MP and MA is too close. So how about the older analog cameras like the M2?
Okay. So MP is with meter. MA is no meter. Okay, unless you are very sure you can shoot without a meter, very sure that you will not carry a meter everywhere, then MA or M3, the older generations are all okay. Technically, these cameras really last a very long time. The reason I use M6 because I begin with M6 and then I have been used to that camera. Of course, maybe in the future, I will buy an MP. Again, it's personal preference because the winder for M6 is easier for me. Very big fingers. So it depends on personal preference. But M7 is a bit different. It has electronic metering. You can do some electronic things metering, and it's very precise. It's quite good. So it depends on what you want, and what you, of course, how much you want to spend on the cameras. There's no right or wrong, but technically, the more refined camera will be the MP. If for me to say is an MP because it has a meter, it fits all the purpose, and then it has a meter for you to bring out and shoot. You don't need to worry about exposure and thinking about that. Yeah, so that's personal preference.
Great. Then two questions regarding the style of your pictures. Actually, the first question is, somebody mentioned that the pictures are slightly underexposed. So I think you already said that this is the way you shoot. So this is done on purpose. And the second question is, the images, they look a little bit soft. Is that because of the lens, or did you adjust the sharpness?
Okay, we do the general. It's not. I don't think it's underexposed. It's just that it is a bit to the darker side. So if you look at color space, if you know your color space theory, by adding dark to a color, you actually make it more punchy. It goes punchier and punchier. If you add white to a color space, it actually become more muted. So I prefer to have that punchiness come out. So that's why I tend to shoot at I tend, in this case, if you're talking about film terms, I tend to shoot at half the box speed and process at the box speed. So this is what I would say. Yeah, maybe I meet up in, we talk more about that in Raffles. So the next question, what's the next question that they asked?
Regarding the sharpness. So
the sharpness. Yeah, version 4 is like that. Okay, version 4, it is a very old lens, but it has that beautiful blend. And again, this is on a not the original, because this is done in a PowerPoint presentation. The sharpness actually goes down a bit. But version 4 has a very smooth transition between sharp and soft. So it is a more so-called pleasing lens in this manner. But again, what you're looking here is actually very low resolution. The file size for the scans, if I just took the picture alone, is about what, 7 by 5,000 pixels, 7,000 by 5,000 pixels. That's how big the file size. That's a crop. Yeah.
Then there's one comment from Willie, not a question. So he said that would be nice that Leica Academy is conducting something to analog photography or even digitalizing. So this is what we mentioned in the beginning. We already talked about that in the preparation, and this is something we would like to hear from you. So check out your emails. If there is demand on that, to have a physical session, we will definitely have a look on that and see what we can do. I mean, you guys know that we are still somehow limited in the size of the groups and everything, but Casey already mentioned that he would be happy to do a physical session somewhere in Raffles, for example. And yeah, we will have a look on that. So we will keep you updated about that. Then last question from the audience, and then afterwards, last concluding question from my side. The last audience question is from Gomi. He's asking, Sigma has 2 macro lenses, 70 and the 105. Which one would be your favorite and why?
Okay, the reason why I use 105 is because it focuses faster. That's all.
So this is why this one your favorite.
Yeah, it focuses faster, and it has somehow it has a bit longer distance. Because there are some so-called copier that you have to flip. There's a flip, and then that flip sometimes the hood sometimes prevent the flip. So and then it comes into, again, slowness in copying. So I prefer the absolute distance, and I focus faster. So that's why the 105. It's always about how fast and how good it is digitizing. Yeah, that's my take.
And last question from my side, and I think one of the reasons why we had this session today. Why do you use such a setup instead of just using a scanner? Would make your life much easier.
First, in fact, I used scanner before, but I found it slow. And I spent a lot of time cleaning the scanner. I'm kind of fed up with it. And then you have to cover the scanner with a cover so that no cloth goes in. You have to do a lot of things that have to prepare your scanner for the scan. And imagine that I have 4,000 or 5,000 slides, and I have scanned 3-4 times of the 4,000 or 5,000 slides. And out of all this, I feel that this is still the best. And some of the scanners, you cannot adjust the focus. And if the slide and the glass is a bit different, the distance, and then you will get that little softness it might be due to the scan. But with this, I got definite sharpness, and that's important. Yeah. And it has to be easy. It has to be enjoyable. I mean, I don't want to spend my life scanning slowly. I need to shoot. I process my own film, and then of course you have to enjoy the scan and see what you like. You know?
Okay.
You
So
end
you
up,
always prefer this this method.
I prefer this method. Last time I used to put it to scan. I went to sleep. Next day, wake up, I got all my scans ready, but it's just too long. But this is faster. I got it within what 10 minutes. I got the whole frame done. I mean, 10 minutes, I got 36 done. It's okay.
Good answer. I mean, as I said, this is why we have done that session to show how digitalization can be done in a good and professional way. So yeah, Casey, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And I have to special thank the audience today, because super active. If we would be in a school class, you would all get an A today for participation. So it's always, you know, nice when you really feel that there's so much interest, especially on a topic like this, which I said in the beginning is still niche, but I mean, you can see in the participation today we had over 100 participants on a topic like that. So that, you know, matches my perception in the store that there's still interest in those kind of things, and good to hear that you know, about the real way of photography, natural way of photography is still so highly interested. Okay, Casey, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Today. And guys, I hope you had fun. And for everything that comes afterwards, I said we will update you, and of course also keep yourself updated on our social media channels. So when there's any information or any event or anything happening, we will usually share it over there. We will have 2 Leica conversations in July, also very interesting topics. Don't want to, you know, reveal it today, so keep your guys excited. And yeah, that's all from our side. Thank you very much for spending your time with us, and have a nice evening.